This year is quite a stacked year for the Grammys, especially in the category of Album of the Year. The nominees are overwhelmingly female, as was the case last year, which we love to see. But I think that there are 5 standout records that have the potential to win Album of the Year, in my opinion, and they are Beyonce's Cowboy Carter, Charli XCX's Brat, Chappell Roan's The Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess, Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet, and Miss Taylor Swift's The Torture Poets Department. It's Grammy season, but of course we have to discuss the upcoming awards show and our predicted outcomes. As a pop girl enthusiast, I wanted to explore these albums and give my argument for why I think each one is deserving of the accolade Album of the Year. I also do think that Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish is a contender, but I won't be speaking on her because I don't find myself revisiting that album, and I don't feel like I can vouch for its artistic excellence or its contribution to Billie's legacy without spending a little bit more time with her. So I won't be commenting on that album, though I do think it is a good contender for Album of the Year. Now, if I'm being perfectly honest with myself, my prediction is that the Album of the Year will come down to 3 different artists, just solely based on how the Grammys have moved in the past, how they voted in the past, and that is between Beyonce, Billie, and Taylor Swift. Beyonce is essentially owed an album after her 2023 snub at the Grammys for Album of the Year. Billie Eilish is a Grammy darling. She seems to have the ear of the Academy, and Taylor Swift is the HBIC right now. She's a titan in the music industry, moving units, okay? And we cannot overstate how big of a year the Torture Poets Department did have last year. I think it's gonna come down to those 3, and just my honest opinion. That's just what I think. You guys can think differently. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. But all that to say, I think there are 5 main girlies in this category whose album was a work of art and does deserve this honor of Album of the Year. I'm gonna plead my case for them in these videos because it's fun, okay? This is fun. It's just fun to argue my case for each album, why I feel like they deserve Album of the Year. I decided to split this up into 2 parts. Today we'll discuss why I think that The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, Cowboy Carter, and Short and Sweet all deserve to win Album of the Year at the Grammy, all based on the criteria that the Grammy says they uses as a deciding factor, including artistic excellence, cultural impact, artist legacy, commerciality, etc. To be honest, they don't outright come out and say what factors into each member's votes and why they vote a certain way in the Academy, so I'm just gonna plead my case for all of these albums based on my own interpretation of what this all could mean. I don't know why I had like a death grip on the microphone. I'm literally like, these are the people I think should win Album of the Year. Like, relax. It's not that deep. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. My name is Serena, and I make videos about the intersection of pop culture and music. Today's video kicks off my Grammy series, where we're gonna be making a related video every single week leading up to the big night. And we have to start with the Pink Pony Girl herself, Miss Chappell Roan, and her groundbreaking debut album, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess. Chappell was nominated for 6 Grammys this year, including Record of the Year, Best Solo Performance for Good Luck Babe, Best New Artist, Best Pop Vocal Album, and the very coveted Album of the Year. So, all this to say, there's the potential for a Chappell sweep. I'm just saying, you heard it here first. What is so special about Chappell's album is that we've never really had like a main pop girl in the zeitgeist that we've seen come to terms with their queer identity in real time. Chappell's album is both deeply personal and also universally relatable. We watch her escape her small town in the Midwest all the way to the Pink Pony Club, inspired by LA's gay clubs and nightlife. We have songs that detail her messy breakups with a boy, her budding crush on a close friend, her first queer experiences, all wrapped into bulletproof pop songs that are sticky. They're sticky, okay? Their choruses are gonna be stuck in your head for forever. They are bulletproof pop songs. As far as artistic excellence goes, The Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess is a masterclass in genre blending, storytelling, and authenticity. Chappell worked almost exclusively with Dan Nigro of Olivia Rodrigo's Sour and Guts acclaim to create a unique soundscape of 80s pop, disco, and modern synth pop, a nostalgic yet fresh sound. Tracks like The Pink Pony Club and My Kink is Karma are not only catchy, but also layered with emotion and meticulous attention to detail, showcasing Chappell's range as both a songwriter and a vocalist. She's practically wailing in the climax of My Kink is Karma that mirrors the themes of the song. It's so good. The cohesive narrative arc of the album, capturing the highs and lows of self-discovery, ambition, and heartbreak, sets it apart as an artistic statement. And Chappell is so clear on what her artistic vision is. I want to make pop music for queer people in the Midwest so they can feel proud of their personal identity, so they can feel heard and celebrated. Chappell Roan is a persona, often seen in drag-inspired looks, over-the-top campy outfits, and she pulls out a new look for nearly every occasion. She was Lady Liberty for the Gov Ball, she was a butterfly goddess for Coachella, you've seen her in the shoulder pads that say sparkled and say good luck babe. She's even worn like a wrestling outfit for one of her music festivals, which was a look. She's just always turning out a look for every single occasion, and she is not afraid to go there with it, to go there with the camp, to go all out. Chapel often pays homage to her inspiration rooted in drag culture and even handpicked local drag performers to open for her on her debut tour. While Chapel Roan is newly a rising star and merely stepping into her legacy, this album positions her as one of the most interesting voices of her generation. Her journey from small town Missouri to the national stage mirrors the story of an underdog that the music industry just loves. We love to see a girly come up from practically nothing, no footing in the industry, and do it all on her own. Chapel was, contrary to what some may believe, not an overnight success. Her rise to the top came after nearly a decade of hard work, starting over and reinventing herself. This is why when she exploded onto the mainstream last year, she appeared as a fully formed pop star. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew how to perform. She knew how to turn out a look. I remember when everybody saw the viral clips of her at Coachella, they were like, who is this girl that you've been gatekeeping from us? Who is this girl that I have not seen? By embracing her queer identity and infusing it into her music unapologetically, Chapel is setting a precedent for future artists to do the same. But what Chapel does is sing about her experiences as she navigates coming to terms with her sexuality in real time. She is actively discovering who she is in her queer identity. It's something so much more deeply relatable. She brings queer stories to the mainstream, and I mean in a way where you'll encounter them everywhere you go. The grocery store, the mall. As far as commerciality goes, I think this is the least important factor when it comes to what albums do and do not deserve Album of the Year. Just because an album didn't outsell others does not take away from its artistic excellence or its artistic value. But the album's success in what it did sell and the units it did move is notable, as it started as an independently released project. This highlights its grassroots in proving that great art doesn't always need major label backing to thrive, and that's kind of the magic sauce behind Chapel. For a time, most of her work was self-funded, so she was able to freely work and create the art that she wanted to. She didn't have anybody in her ear telling her she can't do this, she can't do this. And of course, Chapel's cultural impact this year could not be overstated. Chapel emerged in the culture fully formed as a mainstream pop girly. The album's themes of self-expression, sexual liberation, and reclaiming one's narrative have struck a chord with fans who see themselves in Roan's unapologetic artistry. Beyond the music, Chapel's DIY approach and connection with her audience challenge the traditional norms of the music industry, inspiring a new wave of artists to be bold, independent, and authentic. In all, the rise and fall of a Midwest princess is a mix of campy fun, emotional depth, and unapologetic queer joy. If the Academy elects to give this award to Chapel, I think it is more than deserved, and the impact that it'll have on specifically her queer audience will be immeasurable. I also think it'll inspire smaller artists who are just trying to make it out there on their own to press on. Alright, now moving on to the pop star of the century, Miss Beyonce herself, and her debut as a country artist with Cowboy Carter. I simply am at a loss for where I should begin with her. First off, a huge congrats to our Queen Bee for being named Billboard's greatest pop star of the century. Truly, truly a deserved accolade, in my opinion, and not a miss. Beyonce was nominated for 11 Grammys this year. I think she became the most nominated artist in the Grammys history. Don't quote me on that, I actually don't know if that's factual, but I believe she has had the most nominations now with the inclusion of these 11 that just came out this year. She, of course, was nominated for Album of the Year. She was also nominated for Best Country Record of the Year. Her song Texas Hold'em was nominated for Best Country Song, Song of the Year, and Record of the Year. Her song Ya Ya was nominated for Best Americana Performance, Best Country Solo Performance for 16 Carriages, Best Melodic Rap Performance for Spaghetti. I'm just reading these off at this point because she has so many. Best Pop Duo / Group Performance for Levi's Jeans featuring Post Malone. Best Country Duo / Group Performance for Two Most Wanted with Miley Cyrus. Best Pop Solo Performance for Bodyguard. And what I love most about these nominations is that Beyonce actually submitted like a large amount of her songs from this body of work to be recognized across the Academy, which I think is really smart. I think other artists should do that. I think it gives a chance for her album to become more widely recognized, especially because it's like kind of a breakout new genre for her. Album of the Year is an award that Beyonce shockingly has never won in the past. Robbery at the 2023 Grammys. Heard of her? I had to say that because I feel like Renaissance did deserve Album of the Year that year, but Harry Styles won that year, and I'm okay with that because Harry Styles' album is probably my favorite album. One of my favorite albums of all time. I'm sorry, I go argue with the wall. I don't know what to say. But I think what her and mostly her husband, Jay-Z, did by calling the Grammys out for this atrocity is kind of give an ultimatum and back the Academy into a corner where if she does win the album this year, it'll kind of feel like a consolation prize. And that's not what our Queen Bee, who has been deserving of Album of the Year for all of these years, truly deserves. She doesn't deserve the consolation prize. She needs to win by her own merit and not because the Academy feels threatened. Now, this record is not my favorite Beyonce record, I will admit that. I just have to share my testimony, but it's still an amazing album, and here's why I think it should win Album of the Year. Beyonce is a visionary. She's a curator of taste, and she's a performer. That is the magic Beyonce sauce. That is her bag. So it didn't surprise me in the least that she could pull together a nearly perfect record that blends country, R&B, soul, and hip-hop in a way that feels cohesive and refreshing. She Beyonce-fied the country genre. She featured smaller Black female country artists. She collaborated with industry favorites like Post Malone, Miley Cyrus, and even had an interlude that included Dolly Parton before her version of Jolene that she was going to sing on the album. What I didn't appreciate about this album, if I'm being honest, simply is the lack of visuals. I know that she was on her Renaissance World Tour when most of this album was created, but I would have loved to just get a real music video. We do have the Beyonce Bowl that you can watch now on Netflix or YouTube, and that was incredible from the Christmas performance at the Houston game. But I would have loved to get more visuals for this world because I think that her world building on this album is incredible. I just would have loved to actually visually get to see it. As far as artistic excellence, this is a perfect example of her artistry diving into a new genre and Beyonce-fying it. In this album, her full range as a vocalist and an artist is on display. She knew exactly who to have on each track. As I said before, she's a meticulous curator of taste. Two Most Wanted with Miley. She heard Miley in those backyard sessions and she was like, get her on the track. Two Most Wanted, get her on the track. Levi's Jeans with Post Malone. That's the first time I've really heard Post Malone like sing like that. And it was, I will say it was good. This album holds several nods to older pieces of work, Blackbird by the Beatles, Jolene by Dolly Parton, Chuck Berry's Oh Louisiana, and samples from songs like Fleetwood Mac, The Beach Boys, Lee Hazelwood, Tommaso Giordani, and Patsy Cline. And perhaps equally important to the genre blending is the lyricism and storytelling on this album. This album tells the highly compelling story of resilience, identity, and the reclamation of space, particularly as a Black woman in historically white genre. It's the taking back of Black culture in this genre that makes the storytelling on this album so biting and intense. Each track feels like a different chapter in this greater story. And her voice, Beyonce really shows her emotional depth in her voice, switching from the vulnerable, stripped back Prairie Sunrise to the strength and power in Rodeo Rain. The story that this album tells just takes the listener on a journey. This project was created with Beyonce's legacy in mind. That was kind of the whole reason behind what she was doing. She wanted to challenge herself creatively. She wanted to explore uncharted territory while also remaining authentic to who she is as an artist. Her ability to cross genres and reinvent herself is how she's remained relevant for decades and still stands as a leading industry icon. This album cements her place as a lead tastemaker in the industry and will sit proudly in her discography as the furthest leap that she's taken outside of her typical music-making process. This album was, by all accounts, a huge commercial success, as all Beyonce albums are at this point. When you've reached the level that her and Taylor Swift have got to, it's kind of like every single time you release an album, it's gonna be good, it's gonna be popular, it's gonna hit the charts big time. Nevertheless, the album debuted at #1 on the Billboard and broke multiple streaming records on the release date. The album introduced her work to a diverse group of listeners. More than just Beyonce fans were listening to this album, okay? There were country fans tuning in as well. I know some of them that were. She was introduced to a new group of people given the conversation that it sparked. If a main pop girl, a global icon for pop, dance, hip hop, and R&B, could actually do country music, people were curious. Which brings me to this album's cultural impact. Beyonce's exploration of the cowboy culture through a Black female lens has sparked important conversations about representation in historically white genre. This album reclaims a narrative that was overlooked, Black people's contributions to the genre as pioneers. They pioneered this genre, and it was taken away from them, but she's taken it back. You had people debating the quality of the album, whether it was truly a country album or not. You even had country radio stations refusing to play any of the music because they said it wasn't country. It's Beyonce's country. And of course, we can't forget that other artists like Post Malone and even Lana Del Rey for a time also pivoted to do something in country. We can debate all day long about who did what first and who started what, but like always, Beyonce is the true trailblazer and maps the way for others in the industry to do the same. And I won't be surprised if more long-standing icons pivot to country, even if just for one project like Beyonce did, because she started that trend. In all, Cowboy Carter is much more than a genre-crossing album for Beyonce. It is a cultural milestone that redefines what music and artistry can achieve. Its artistic excellence woven into Beyonce's legacy make it a shoo-in for Album of the Year. And of course, if this was rewarded, it would be long, long, long overdue and much deserved. My final argument is going to be for why I think Miss Sabrina Carpenter, who had her biggest breakout year in 2024, would also be deserving of Album of the Year for her album Short and Sweet. Sabrina Carpenter really hit her stride this year, where she exploded into public consciousness after her decades-long career from Disney Channel star to main pop girly. She actually started the year opening for Taylor Swift on her iconic Eras tour and ended up ending the year with her own sold-out stadium tour, #1 hit, and #1 album. on the Billboard Top 200. Sabrina was nominated for 6 Grammys this year. Best Pop Solo Performance for Espresso, Best Pop Vocal Album for Short and Sweet, of course Album of the Year for Short and Sweet, Song of the Year for Please Please Please, Record of the Year for Espresso, and of course we have Best New Artist. She's still eligible for Best New Artist. I have to say, I've been a Sabrina stan since her Emails I Can't Send era, so all the generated hype for her this year has me feeling like, well, yes. Well, yes. Give her flowers, well, yes. This album is a stunning testament to Sabrina's growth as an artist. She's really found her sense of humor and redefined her writing this year. With a writing credit on every track, Sabrina is much more vulnerable on this album, and the result is universally relatable. Short and Sweet exemplifies Sabrina's command of the songwriting craft. Taking a page from close friend Taylor Swift's playbook, she writes songs that center around the complexities of dating in your 20s, that may or may not be about famous pop star exes, movie star boyfriends, you get it. She has an honest, oftentimes witty take on the breakdown of relationship, balancing her vulnerability but also her self-assurance. Songs like Sharpest Tool and Light a Girl, she offers a sharp, introspective commentary on emotional manipulation, while tracks like Good Graces stand out as a more self-assured and humorous. While also, they're all creating a sticky pop song with butch production that's gonna get stuck in your head forever. I hate to say it might be sad, it might be about a breakup, but guess what? It's still gonna get stuck in her head. I'm gonna be singing it over and over again, because that's just what she did. That is what she did. She got in the stew, she said, they're never gonna forget these songs, and she was correct. The concise 12-song runtime reflects Sabrina's ability to distill meaningful narratives without any unnecessary filler. I always say that I'd rather have an album with 12 bulletproof, no-skip songs than a 16 to 20 song track list that has like 4 to 5 songs that are just mid, you might skip them, they're kind of boring, etc, etc, etc. The album's fusion of pop, electronic, and R&B influences creates a fresh and captivating sound, as emotionally resonant as it is musically addictive. The music is good, as well as the songwriting, so she really just wrapped it all up in this album. Sabrina has been steadily evolving since her early days on the Disney Channel. Describing the album as her second big girl project, the second album that she has released since being out from under Disney Channel's umbrella and their recording contracts, Sabrina displays maturity in both her songwriting and her creative control. It is her universal themes crafted by her personal storytelling that propelled her into superstardom and cemented her as a voice of the Gen Z generation. The commercial success of this album cannot be overstated. Short and Sweet became Sabrina's first #1 album in the US and topped the charts in 18 countries. Every track charted on the Hot 100 in the US, which is a rare and remarkable achievement. Singles both Espresso and Please 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 dominated the charts, reaching #1 on the Billboard Global 200. Taste also achieved chart-topping success after the album's release, proving Sabrina's ability to create hits with wide-reaching appeal. She also just so happened to then subsequently go on a sold-out arena tour for the album. And the sold-out tour is a good place to start with her cultural impact. The moms bringing their literal children to the tour have absolutely lost the plot, blaming Sabrina for the mature and adult content in her shows as if the music doesn't reflect those themes. As if she doesn't have a line in Juno where she literally says, "I'm effing horny," for crying out loud. I'm not sure what they were expecting to see on stage if that's what the content of the music says. But this conversation around the content in Sabrina's shows has sparked a larger conversation about the expectations of our female pop stars. Oh my god, again. From this, I've seen so many think pieces that link back to Britney Spears, to Miley Cyrus, and how the history book on the shelf just always keeps repeating itself. We just keep treating our pop star girlies this way. It doesn't matter what generation we're in, for some reason we always put these expectations on them. This could turn into a rant. Hold up. But this really got people thinking, you know, why should a girl who is 25, well into adulthood, who has been working since she was 9 years old, not be afforded the space to just be a girl in her 20s, talking about dating in her 20s, because your young children might be watching. This tour also, of course, influenced the fashion landscape for girls in their 20s and 30s, but Sabrina has already been influencing that demographic of people ever since her iconic heart cutout dress and her platform boots she was seen during her Emails I Can't Send tour, and also when she used to open for the Eras tour. In all, Short and Sweet is a shining example of contemporary pop done right. Its artistic brilliance, record-breaking commercial performance, and undeniable cultural influence make it more than deserving of Album of the Year at the Grammys. And similar to Chapel, if the Grammys feels like rewarding a new artist this year for their long journey to the breakout year, you know, Sabrina is another shoe-in. And that pretty much concludes my thoughts on these albums in their standing with the Grammys and why I think each one of them would be totally deserving of Album of the Year at the Grammys this year if they feel like rewarding it to one of them. Let me know which album is your choice for Album of the Year. Of the nominations, which one you would pick. I need to know. Please let me know. Again, I just really have a gut feeling that it's going to be Beyonce, Billie, or Taylor that takes home the hardware, but you never really know with the Grammys now, do ya? Of course, there's always the chance that there could be a Chapel sweep because Chapel is nominated in every main category, even Best New Artist, so, you know, we could have a sweep of Chapel Roan. That would be pretty cool. I'm gonna be making my case for why I also think the Tortured Poets Department and Brat could potentially take home Album of the Year, so make sure that you check out my video next week when it's out. Make sure you watch that before the big night on February 2nd. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye!